What's up, everybody? Blake here with another message for you guys, for you high schoolers this time. Hope you guys have had a safe quarantine still and are also looking forward to the easing of restrictions. Maybe you gotta go out, break a couple rules, see that bioluminescent tide. It was really cool. I know I did that on the down low, but I hope you guys have just had a great time so far and staying safe and spending time with your family, and that it just continues to get better. I've got a really cool message for you guys this week. Let's hop right into it. So today we're talking about what to do when you go through heavy and painful real life stuff. Maybe you guys have been through some of that. But before we can even ask the question, what do I do? We often ask ourselves, why? Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this right now? And these questions can often feel difficult, random, pointless, or even unnecessary. Most of the time, things that don't feel good seem pointless. They just don't seem like they have value. We've all had an experience that hurts and feels pointless in the moment, where you just can't see the value in it. When we go through these things, we'll often question and ask why they're happening. And if you're like me, there's usually not many good answers in the moment. You can't really conjure up why. In real life, and unlike the movies or Instagram or things we see on TikTok, our difficult circumstances usually don't get a pretty bow tied on them as we walk through them. They normally end up kind of messy. So let's recap what's been going on in Genesis, which we've been reading through. So Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers. He was taken to a foreign land, Egypt, and here he was forced to work for a high-powered official. And when he was working for this high-powered official, he was falsely accused of doing something he didn't do and was thrown into prison for it. And that's where we pick up. Joseph is in a jail for a crime he didn't commit, and here he makes some new friends. Very interesting friends. And we read about this in Genesis 40, 1 through 3. We read, "Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker committed an offense and against their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. And he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison where Joseph was confined." Remember, Joseph was in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And even in that really difficult situation, Joseph continued to honor God. And we read that in Genesis 44 through 8. The captain of the guard appointed Joseph to be with them, and he attended them. They continued for some time in custody. And one night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each his own dream, and each dream with its own interpretation. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today?" They said to him, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." The men told Joseph their dreams, and with God's help, Joseph told them what they meant. And then what Joseph said would happen. Well, it happened. The story tells us the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. He got out of jail and went on with his life. And we do that a lot of times. We forget the people who've helped us. But over time, as Joseph was waiting in jail for his friend to remember him, he realized that not only did his friend forget him, what he did to help his friend didn't help his situation. But then, 2 years later, Pharaoh had two dreams that troubled him. He desperately searched for someone on his staff who could interpret them, but no one could. And that's when the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Pharaoh called Joseph, who interpreted the dream with incredible accuracy. And as a result, eventually Joseph was made second in charge of all of Egypt. And under Joseph's leadership, Egypt survived a terrible famine, which eventually put Egypt in a position to save Joseph's family and other people from his homeland who were suffering from the famine. This did not make Joseph's life perfect, though. Not even close. But when we see the big picture and understand the context to this backstory, we see that Joseph's challenging circumstances uniquely positioned him to do something great. Hard things can happen in your life, and it's important to remember that just because something happens doesn't mean it was something God did to you or wanted for you. Remember, God is really good at doing the impossible. Things that we just don't think can get any better, He can make better. And it may not seem to make things all better, and it may not even make sense yet, but God is in the business of taking our hurt, our difficulties, our pain, our tears, and giving them a purpose and a meaning. When you don't know what to do, remember that your problems can position you for a purpose. This doesn't mean we can tie a bow on all our challenging things. It doesn't mean that we just forget about them. It doesn't mean that everything's gonna be fixed and go exactly to how it was before the bad thing happened. But it means we can leave room for God to tell a new story in our hard circumstances. So when we go through pain and we can't see the purpose yet, here are some things that can help us get a bigger perspective. The first is, remember that no one else has your story, that you're each uniquely made by God, and that remember your story can interact with others. You guys can help others. Joseph went through pain that felt pointless, but when we see his backstory, we see that God used his problems and positioned him for a purpose. God took his impossibly bad situation and used it to create unimaginable good down the road. And He can do the same for each one of us, and He desires to do the same for each one of us, and He will do the same for each one of us. Well, guys, that's all I got for you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week, and we really hope to see you soon. Bye, guys.